Welcome everyone to Shoot and Loot episode 13. We're running and gunning, watching and discussing all things video games and your weekly source of geekdom. I'm your host, the intrigued one, Kevin Alvarez, and to my physical front is none other than Rob the Man.
Hello everybody.
Join us as we talk about the entertainment that moves us or brings us dismay. If you're new to the channel, welcome and let's have fun. Today's topics are, we're going to talk about Marvel's Shang-Chi. We're also going to talk about the ending and the full game of Psychonauts 2 on Xbox Game Pass. However, before we get into it, you know the gambit. Like and subscribe to the channel if you enjoyed the show, and follow us on our various social media channels. Rob, let's start off with Shang-Chi.
Yeah.
I wanted to start off the conversation with, what were your expectations going into the movie? You know, when it was announced, what we had found out about Phase 4, they were introducing this character. What were some of your... Well, I mean, I know my interpretation of what those moments meant when that was announced the first time, right, during that I always forget the name, but I think it was D23 or the Marvel conference that they were having.
Yeah, I think it was D23, but
right.
I might be wrong.
What'd you think before you had heard that they were making a Shang-Chi movie, and then once it was announced, what was your initial reaction at the time, or at least what was your expectations of it?
I thought the guy looked like the drawings, you know, Simu Liu. I can't pronounce it, but he looked like the drawing from the comic books, and so that was cool. I was like, all right, that's Shang-Chi, you know, like that's totally him. But I didn't know about like his acting chops, you know what I mean? Like I didn't know because I never seen him in anything.
Right.
He was in Kim's what is it? Kim's Convenience on it's a Canadian sitcom.
This is my first time ever seeing this actor.
Yeah.
So for me, this is my introduction to this character. To this actor.
Yeah. So I didn't know, but as soon as like when I found out Tony Leung is gonna be Mandarin, or Wen Wu, he doesn't go by the Mandarin. He mentions it. Yeah. But he doesn't go by the Mandarin. Wen Wu, that got me excited because that guy he's dope. And
he's come out in other stuff before. He looks familiar, right?
Yeah, he's done mostly like Hong Kong movies. Like okay. He was in The Grandmaster though. Yeah. That was like his most recent big movie where it's like Ip Man. So there's like Ip Man.
Wait, it's Ip Man?
No. That's Donnie Yen.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So Ip Man is they did 1, 2, and 3, and then they did The Grandmaster, which is where he's like older.
Oh, okay.
So it's like an older actor, but I think it's part of the same franchise. I might be full of shit. But I want to say that he played he didn't play Ip Man. He played someone else. Okay. But he played an important part in that movie. I gotta look it up. I don't remember exactly who he played. Well,
just like your expectations, like the guy looked the part. My expectations going in after finding out about Phase 4 and what their trajectory was what the trajectory that they had mentioned before was, they want to rebuild the universe, bring in new characters, you know, almost like say like, hey, we need to build our forces of characters again, right? Yeah. For the next big event.
For the next, exactly. For the next Infinity Saga type of thing.
Exactly. And getting Kamala being introduced, or, you know, having her be part of Phase 4, Blade being introduced, Shang-Chi being introduced, like all these characters that I didn't think... I'll be honest with you, I didn't think we would actually get characters like that. Yeah. The first time I was introduced to Shang-Chi, that character was in the comic book run that was happening at the time, which was Spider-Verse. Not Into the Spider-Verse, but I think it was the Spider Island arc in the Spider-Man comics. Yeah. Because Shang-Chi was teaching Peter
He teaches him how to fight.
How to fight better, and he made they called it Spider-Fu. But whatever, right? Yeah. He taught him that those abilities, and I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. I never heard of this character. And again, a lot of these characters, like I got introduced more recently, right, through more modern comics. Yeah. Now that we heard that movie was coming out, I'll be honest with you, I was not looking forward to the movie because we were going back to almost like zero, right? Like we had to rebuild. Yeah, kind of. And I don't know if I had not the attention span. I was definitely going to go watch it, but I don't know if I had that same drive that had been driving us for the past 20 years.
Well, Shang-Chi
10 years, sorry.
is Shang-Chi is like the first Marvel movie, right? We had Loki,
Right.
we had WandaVision, and we had Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and now What If?
And then the last movie that we had in the phase 3 was Far From Home, right? That was the last.
And then we got also Black Widow, but
Black Widow was phase 4 supposedly.
Yeah, but Black Widow may as well have been phase 3. The only thing that I think is phase 4 about it is Yelena Belova joining whatever Val is making, whether she's making the Thunderbolts or something else. But I think Shang-Chi was the first Marvel movie in phase 4. It's the first film that really leans into what's happening next, know? And kind of like it's the first origin story that we've gotten in phase 4.
In a while too, because the last one was Captain Marvel, right? That was the last origin story we had received.
Story, yeah, that was back in 2019.
Yeah,
2018.
I'll look it up.
Yeah, I think it's 2018, 2019. But yeah, that was the last one we got, but it's so different than any of the origin stories. I was expecting something a little bit more by the numbers, and I wasn't expecting it to
2019, yeah.
I wasn't expecting it to be as grand as I didn't expect it to be on such a grand scale as it ended up being.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, I thought it was going to be a smaller movie.
I was heavily and pleasantly surprised of how great this movie was. And I had mentioned before, even before we had watched Shang-Chi together, what was that my level of the origin stories, of which one I liked the most, was Doctor Strange. I feel like Doctor Strange was the perfect level of an origin story where you had this character that had to go through this training and bring up who this person is, and then give them the threat, give them the whole spiel of their story and what they bring to the universe, right? I love Captain America. I love Thor. I love all those first early movies, but because they are older, they feel a little bit more rougher on the edges.
Iron Man still holds up. I think. Iron Man still holds up. Captain America, I like. Ant-Man, I think, is great. The first Ant-Man, where I think that was a great origin story. And I think, what's another one that's a good origin story? I had it up. Not Black Panther, because Black Panther, you really kind of...
Guardians. I mean, that is that's an origin story for all those characters.
Yeah, that's true. That's the origin of the team.
Yeah.
But, like, Black Panther wasn't really an origin story, because you saw him in
Civil War. Yeah.
But
it was an introduction to, like, where he comes from.
Yeah.
Which I kind of think works in both the favor of Shang-Chi, Captain Marvel, and Black Panther, where you kind of already know that they're badasses. You're just filling in the gaps of that you missed. Like Captain Marvel, you already know she was strong. You already knew she was like some type of like Green Lantern type of character for this universe, right?
Yeah.
She didn't remember who she was.
Yeah.
Without spoiling right now, but Shang-Chi is the same way where he's a badass, but you're being introduced to why he is a badass.
Right.
In Black Panther 2, he has a mantle that has to live up to. And in Black Panther movie, we see what that means for him and his, not only his culture, but also what that means within himself and his family and being the king. Yeah. The king.
No, but he definitely was a badass. But I liked also that they showed him kind of being a slacker. Like, we've had that story in the Marvel movies before with like Scott Lang, where he's kind of, but he's not. He's not a slacker because he wants to be. He's a slacker because he's a con man, or he's a convict, and
for doing something good.
Yeah, and then and so he's stuck at home. But
and then Thor had that same storyline in Endgame.
In Endgame, yeah,
because he kind of fell into the depression.
Right. After essentially losing to Thanos.
Yeah.
Even though he killed him, but. I like the kind of like he's trying not to be seen. He's trying not to be, you know what I mean?
He's just trying to blend in.
He's trying to blend in. He's not living up to his potential. He's not, and I think it's cool how they show that with him and Awkwafina's character, and then they go into them actually kind of him refinding a purpose and her finding one for the first time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I really liked the way they handled the characters. I thought Wen Wu was probably one of the best villains we've seen in a long time.
And especially really well done for an origin story. Because again, one of the main problems that a lot of the original origin stories was that you're just fighting a dark interpretation of yourself, right?
Right. Or
Ant-Man had to fight Yellow Jacket. Captain America had to fight Red Skull. It's just the mirror image of who they were.
Yeah.
Now, what I liked about this version, like you mentioned, is when Wu was not just any villain. It just wasn't a dark version of himself. It's his dad.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And that puts so much weight and levity to the situation and the story that they're telling.
Yeah. I think it does add gravity to the situation, and then he's not just I guess they could be looked at as reflections of each other, being father and son, but he's not. He has totally different motivations. He's 1,000 years old. He's got all kinds of different. The makeup of his character is completely different than Shang-Chi. They just happen to be related. You know what I mean? Like,
no, but you could tell he does share similarities with his dad. Like, he was there for those moments that they had agreed upon, and he was looking for father's approval.
That's true, but what I liked about it was that they're the three characters, Shang-Chi, Shang-Chi, and Wen-Wu.
Oh, Wen-Wu. Mm-hmm.
They each had the same trauma.
Yeah.
That character defining trauma. And then you see each one of them respond to it differently. You know what I mean?
It reminds me of, exactly like you mentioned, that it reminds me of where a certain trauma happened and you replay it multiple times to see how each person has saw that trauma.
Right.
And each one took it differently. Like you mentioned, like Xialing having to not be recognized, unfortunately, like being the shadow of her brother, but finding her own way. Shang-Chi trying to live up to his father's expectation, and also his father being kind of a broken man,
Yeah, he was, but I enjoyed the fact that Shang-Chi was being looked for and trying not to be seen.
Yeah. And
Xialing was trying to be seen, and she was right in front of him. You know what I'm saying? So I like that they were both. It was just really interesting character moments. Or it just the characters you're introduced to. It's like, okay, these are fucking interesting, like fleshed out, characters. They didn't feel one note. Even like Razor Fist, felt kind of one note, and then you see his car. Right. And it's like, okay, this guy's just having fun being a bad guy.
Exactly.
Like and even his car and the way it just. When you get all the bits and pieces, it was really well done. I don't really go into anything with too much expectation. I try to kind of have a blank slate. There's times where I'm hyped up and I watch the movie, a movie, and I feel like the movie didn't live up to the hype. With Shang-Chi being an origin story, I'm not as familiar with Shang-Chi as I am with like Spider-Man.
Exactly. Like we don't have that same background or that same baggage that what we would think would interpret that.
I know he was
that character.
He was in the batch of the heroes for hire.
Yeah.
He was, it was Shang-Chi, Luke Cage, and Iron Fist, and Misty Knight. Colleen Wing.
Mm-hmm.
They were kind of like those exploitation characters from the 70s.
Yeah.
That Marvel came out with that maybe weren't, racially sensitive at the time. You had Fing Fang Foom the Dragon. You had Fu Manchu. You had all these like characters that were like, okay, like what are we doing here, bro? So I really enjoyed that Shang-Chi actually took it a different way, where it was like the movie. It shows you about their culture in Ta Lo, how the culture is in Ta Lo.
What the culture is for Asian American, San Francisco, things like that,
Right, the expectation of family, like the family imposing their expectations on them.
Because every culture has their different family dynamics that they hold dear. Not everyone has the same, American upbringing, but you like you said, it's that clash of cultures, right?
Yeah, or balance, or balance of cultures, where you're when you have a family that comes, or where your origins aren't American, quote unquote, sometimes it's a balancing act of keeping American values, American family dynamics, but also not forgetting the ones from home.
Exactly. Making a symbiosis or making a new culture out of it. Yeah.
Braiding them, intertwining them. So, you see that in Shang-Chi. I really didn't have like an expectation, really. I was just kind of hyped for it. But when the movie was done, I was on like a new level of hype where I was like, okay, I'm not just hyped for this. I'm excited about where they're going with this character.
I'm 100% on with you on that. Is that for me, this not solidified because I mean, why would you bet against Marvel? Why would you bet against them failing? I mean, why wouldn't you? Because eventually you become a cynic, right? Or because they've been doing it for so long. But like, man, they really killed it out of the park with this origin story. And I think it's really well done. It really excites me to see what comes next now that we've seen where the TV shows are heading, and also seen where this movie is leaning, and the quality that you get that unfortunately you only get from a big budget film, right?
Right.
Like the TVs have their own quality that I think WandaVision, Captain Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and Loki, they have I feel a much higher budget than most TV shows you see nowadays anyways, right? But I think it's some of those techniques that Disney has developed with the dome and everything that they've been developing with their technology, right? But at the same time, those TV shows were giving us something familiar from before, while Shang-Chi feels like, you know what, this is a brand new character. We're infusing some new energy into the universe that I think was really needed. I think after Endgame's like, you know what, I'm all on board. Let's fucking go.
Well, there's a it's been a while since we've gotten an origin story of a character that wasn't introduced in another movie.
Exactly.
You know, so like Black Panther was introduced in Civil War. The only one that we've had was like Captain Marvel and Doctor Strange, I think. But and then Ant-Man. But Captain Marvel and Doctor Strange. Captain Marvel is a divisive film. You know, some people like it, some people don't. I think it's fine, but I don't think it's like.
I think it gets more flack than what it deserves, but I think it's good. I just hate. I think I mentioned this in the last podcast. I don't like amnesia stories. I think those are terrible because a character means that 80% of the movie or whatever the show, right?
They don't even know who
they don't know who they are, even though they know who they are. They just can't remember.
And then how am I supposed to care about a character, or how am I supposed to get to know a character when the character doesn't know who they are?
Exactly, you know that's a personal peeve. But again, that's a storytelling device that I don't like personally.
Right.
But like once. I wish we got Captain Marvel more after she had realized who she was. I think that was the fun when she's hanging out with Captain Rambeau.
Right.
Like those moments were great. I wish we got that since the beginning, though. You know?
Or earlier on, or something like that.
But
you know?
we might get it in the Marvels, so then that's gonna be cool too.
Yeah, and like I said, I think it's fine. I think Captain Marvel's fine, but I don't think it's great. You know, I don't think it's bad. But it's almost worse to just be fine. Where like Venom is bad, but
I'm sorry, that's too funny.
But it is, man. But I liked it. I liked it because it was so goofy. It was so bizarre. It was so strange.
It crosses on line where it's so bad it's good.
Yeah, Venom got that. Like they nailed it. You know. So I'm like, okay, cool. Like it's just a corny movie about sure, let's go. You know, so I liked Venom because bad or good. Can we eat them, Eddie? But bad or good, it just knew what it wanted to be. You know, it knew what it wanted to be, and it just went for it. You know, so Captain Marvel, I feel like it was just a little aimless. You know, it was a little aimless. Where I'm like, where are we going here? You know.
Okay, so we watch Shang-Chi. We get the beginning of he is a valet parking lot person, a valet, right? They get introduced. We find out about him and Kate's relationship. They have a platonic relationship with each other. He's very close to their family. They're close since a young age, ever since he immigrated from China to San Francisco, right?
Right.
And they grew up together. And then, how did you feel about that dynamic between not only between him and Kate, but also him and her family, right? Like we don't see his family because guess what? He lives alone.
Yeah.
And he's into.
Well, he lives in a garage.
He lives in a garage, and he watches kung fu movies. You see all the posters, really cool, little nice touches to that time in 1996.
Well, I think he had a Kung Fu Hustle.
Yeah.
The movie Kung Fu Hustle.
Yeah.
I think that was like 2004, 2003.
Okay, because I remember they said 1996, but I don't know if that was for the flashback.
1996
for his dad, right?
Was the year his dad met his mom.
Okay, there we go. Yeah. Oh, before we get into his story, dude, what'd you think that beginning sequence of setting up Wenwu or the Mandarin, whatever you want to call him, right? I'm gonna call him Wenwu.
The scenery was awesome. The cinematography was awesome.
Very reminiscent of Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon.
Yeah. It was straight up Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. But then I also liked, or like House of Flying Daggers or whatever. But I also liked how the movie starts and you're on the battlefield.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it starts and you're on the battlefield, and then you see how the 10 rings work, like, immediately, you know?
And I love how they set that up super early on to show you what is the power. What's the big deal of this thing, right?
Yeah.
Because especially when, like, I feel like they did a good job of explaining Mjolnir to an American audience. Of, again, you don't know, if you don't know who Thor is, you don't know what this hammer's about, why are you going to care, right? I feel like they did a good job of explaining the 10 rings, showing its power set and what they did during those first opening scenes of his Wenwu's flashbacks.
Yeah.
And I remember leaning over to you, I'm like, this straight up looks like the beginning of a Dynasty Warriors game. Yeah. Because you're like this one guy and you're just like beating up thousands of enemy troops.
Knocking them
just
dead.
cannon fodder.
But if you quickly think of like everything you see Wenwu do in the movie, right? Mm-hmm. And this is just Wenwu. It could apply to Shang-Chi and it could apply to Katie.
Yeah.
The sister, maybe not as much, but I do think them three. Just look at like the beginning, where the first scene, and then just real quickly in your mind, look at all the scenes that follow that they're involved in, and they show a wide spectrum of
techniques,
of not just techniques of character. They show a broad spectrum. Like, each one of these characters was so fleshed out, was so like full. You know what I mean? And lush, and that's what I loved about the movie the most. Where you see Shang-Chi drunkenly do karaoke, but a few scenes later, you see him as a child being trained to kill his mother's killer.
Yeah.
You see Wenwu, dancing essentially with his future bride. 5 minutes after, you saw him destroy an army. Yeah. You know what I mean? And then 25 minutes later, you see him in cold blood assassinate the people who assassinated his wife in front of his son, so that his son can see, watch, this is how you handle this situation, essentially, which was fucking brutal.
Trying to instill certain values into his son that his son eventually didn't agree with once he grew old enough.
Well, the way a warlord would, he's telling someone fucking, what is it? A blood debt gets paid with blood or something like that. It's like, he's just a brutal character, but then also they show that he loves the same way. He he loves with that same intensity.
Right.
Being willing to like to jeopardize everything to get his wife back,
And I don't believe in the coincidental timing a lot of the times, but it's funny how this Shang-Chi comes out now, and then we have that Far Cry 6 game where Giancarlo Esposito's the same thing. They're trying to teach his son.
Right.
You know, seeing that warmongering, like, hey, we're going to help these people, but you got to treat some of these people are animals. And you got to treat them like animals and things like that.
It's fucked
up.
It's
fucked up stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, no, but that's one thing when you look at that movie from a broad, like as a broad, just as a whole, is that they put these characters through a lot, from the, like, when you first see Shang-Chi be a badass, it's in the train, right? Or the bus. Awesome scene, man. The whole scene was just, the choreography was beautiful. It was awesome. It
was so reminiscent of, like, again, old kung fu movies, Jackie Chan movies, things like that, right?
Oh yeah.
Where it had so much creativity in that bus fight scene that I think, again, straight from the beginning of the movie, you're like, hey, this isn't the level of fight you've seen in the Marvel universe. We're gonna take this one to their level because this is a character that is capable of that.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think that's really, really cool.
Some of the Cap and the Widow, Black Widow had excellent.
Yeah, no, I'm not taking away from there, but I'm just saying, like, it's like different type of fighting styles, right?
Yeah, and they really embraced that kung fuism that you wanted to see in fucking Iron Fist. You know
exactly.
What I mean? Where Iron Fist wrote itself. Each episode could have been an homage to a kung fu movie, and boom, that's the show.
Yeah.
Where fucking Shang-Chi, they take the kung fu. The kung fu element, and they do so much more with it than you've seen before.
Hell, even Kate does more impressive stuff than Iron Fist does.
Fucking Iron Fist.
How did you think Shai Ling? How did you like her as a character, the sister?
She was well written and well acted, but she wasn't like a favorite character of mine. Mm-hmm. But she was well written and well acted. I do think that there were Awkwafina pretty much stole most of the scenes that she was in. Mm-hmm. It was like kind of a Darcy Lewis, kind of a Kat Dennings type of thing, where she was real mouthy, real,
just had a more prominent role,
real quippy, real, but
which I like because she brought levity to a lot of the situations, or even reason, like especially that scene where Shang-Chi's telling her, "Hey, this is what happened when I was 14, 7," and she's like, "Yeah, that's fucked up stuff." Like,
and she's asking him all the right questions.
Yeah,
like, and she's she was a great character. Not every joke worked, Some jokes were kind of like, okay, it was a bit much or whatever. But also, she had a great, the fact that she was a valet driver and that would steal cars, that let her be, that wrote itself when it came to stealing Razorfist's car.
Yeah.
And then using her driving skills, she was the one driving through the maze. So it's like you see those moments where okay, they kind of foreshadowed it, and then but the sister, like I said, she was well written, well acted, but she wasn't one of my favorite characters.
She was one of my favorite characters, not because of who she is as the sister, but because one, I think the whole kunai with chain choreography that she did,
that was awesome.
I thought that was freaking cool. Then you never saw it. I mean, I've seen that type of weapon used before, but like not in this, I guess, high budget of a film where you can be slashing dragons and stuff like that, right?
She had a great character moment too with that thing, with that weapon, where the soul suckers were eating the dragon's eye.
Yeah.
And she went, and for someone who's been trying to be seen her whole life, she goes and throws the magic one, the magic blade on the chain, and she clears up the soul suckers from the dragon's eye, and then she makes eye contact with the dragon, where it's like, and you could see they cut back to her, and she like feels like lifted, and I thought that was a cool character moment for her, where she just wanted to be seen, and now she was seen by probably the most important living thing in that situation right then and there,
And I kind of like how, again, like, I like her as a character. I like all of them fine, right? I think for me, Shang-Chi and the father stole the moment for me. Katie was awesome. I think, again, like you said, like not all her comedic beats were fun, like super funny, but there was enough where I was laughing more than I was like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And she was very likable.
Even if there was one joke that was flat, there was another one coming up in like a couple seconds,
Yeah. I agree.
I do like though that they set up Xialing as like almost like the hand. You know what I'm saying? Like making her own like 10 rings. I know that it's the 10 rings, but it felt really like she looks like the boss of the hand, right? Like almost like if this was a Daredevil movie.
She's the boss of the Golden Dagger.
Yeah,
that was the fighting club. It was called the Golden Dagger. That's what that John guy.
Yeah.
That's what he calls it, and that is, if I remember right, the Golden Dagger was another like martial arts sect in the Marvel comic books, if I remember right. But so there was like the hand. There was the 10 Rings wasn't an organization in the comics. I don't think. I think
no,
the 10
think
Rings.
So.
It was just the magical 10 Rings, right?
Yeah.
So she might be turning the Golden Dagger into the 10 Rings, or vice versa, or absorbing it, or whatever. But the state of the 10 Rings was fucking interesting, to say the least. At the end of it, when you see, all the tagging on the walls of my father's compound. It's like, okay, they're going somewhere else with this.
Yeah, definitely.
It had like a Madripoor.
Yeah,
kind of vibe.
A lot of people were wondering if when they went to Hong Kong was that Madripoor, but it wasn't. But but it had a very similar vibe to it.
It totally did,
especially with the illegal like superhuman fighting.
Yeah,
and apparently I didn't see it, but like one of them was a Black Widow that was in there.
Yeah.
One was like you mentioned, one of the people who had the.
She was the one fighting the extremist.
The extremist person. Yeah.
She was the Black Widow, and she was the same actress from Black Widow that was freed in the flying ship.
Cool.
Yeah, it was one of the same actresses that Scarlett Johansson freed. What'd you think of Death Dealer?
Death Dealer's design was dope as hell. Yeah. I felt it was a really cool way to modernize his design. It kind of sucks that he got killed in such a bitch ass way.
Yeah, he did.
Like for like kind of his own Boba moment.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? Where he just got killed to explain what these things do.
Yeah, he got killed to express stakes.
Yeah, exactly.
Like to set stakes.
Because I honestly thought Death Dealer was gonna be almost like the Crossbones, right? He's gonna be like a little mini boss for either Kate or even the sister to beat, right?
Right.
But either way, the design was really cool. The scenes
awesome.
that he was in when Shang-Chi and her were younger, things like that, really cool choreography.
The fight scene that they had
on the building
in the building, yeah. In the construction site. That shit was bad. The fight scene between Shang-Chi and Death Dealer. When I rewatched it, because I watched it twice. When I rewatched it, that choreography looked fucking dope, man.
Right.
It was really cool.
So we have the story. We go through this journey. What did you think of the finale? That third act where they're in Taulo, right?
Yeah.
They were in Taulo. It's the climactic moment. The only reason I'm bringing it up is because it felt like traditional, like Chinese mythology, Japanese anime, whatever you want to call it, right? Where like you have this great scene where like even he has his own like Goku Kamehameha moment, you know?
No, he went from being like what I thought Shang-Chi was like an Iron Fist, like a street level hero.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So taking it there, I was like, damn, they're fucking like he's killing dragons.
Yeah.
Like that shit was bad.
Like he's a hero that can carry his own and not be to that level that we had he had been represented in the comics, right? Like giving him more of a power level, right?
Yeah, he's like they're
power level,
right? It seems like they're taking him more seriously than even some of the comics did, you know?
Right.
But I mean, he trained Spider-Man how to fight, so that's great. But there was I'm left with a lot of questions about the Dweller in Darkness,
right?
The Soul Sucker.
It almost feels like it was very like, well, we just need a bad guy. Like
no, because he's a bad guy from Doctor Strange in the comics.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he's a Doctor Strange villain. So and his look was like a very H.P. Lovecraft looking, you know, tentacles and things like that.
Like half dragon, half octopus, almost.
Yeah, and then the whole thing about reaching out to people psychically and stuff like that.
Yeah, tempting them with what they want.
Yeah, that's like that's some demonic shit, you know. Yeah. And then even their design wasn't particularly like. You saw the foo dogs, the two big foo dogs. Yeah. So typically, or I guess I might be totally wrong about this, but I'm pretty sure that you put two of those, or traditionally they'd put two of those
in the family plot,
in the family, or at home or whatever,
for protection.
And they were for protection.
No, right? You're definitely right about that.
So I think that it was fucking dope that they had two giant ones in Talo.
Yeah.
And that's where the legend comes from. It was like these giant fucking lion dogs that protect your home. So you see those, you see the dragon, you see all the creatures that exist in Talo are all, Chinese, like
mythological creatures. There was a nine tails in there.
Yeah, there was a nine tails. The pig chicken or the chicken pig or whatever. That's a real not a real fucking, but that's a real mythological creature from.
That reminds me of do you remember? You never saw Yu-Gi-Oh, right?
No.
Okay, there's this monster called Karibo. It straight up reminds me of that because it was like a little fur ball with wings, and I'm like, okay, that straight up is it
probably coming from that?
Yeah, inspiration from that.
Yeah, but like they. So the evil characters, they didn't have that. They didn't have that type of aesthetic, like their look, their design. Yeah. It looked like they came from somewhere else.
Right.
So that's where I kind of got left with these questions, where it kind of brings up
the multiverse theory, because they even said Talo is another dimension, or it's a different world. It's not on Earth.
It's a different universe.
Yeah.
And that's where, you saw that week, the Doctor Strange episode where he absorbed all those creatures.
Yeah.
That one was the episode. So the Dweller in Darkness looked like something from that episode more than it did from, or more than it looked like something from Shang-Chi altogether, So that was kind of like questions I was like, okay, just asking myself in the theaters. But no, that I was left with like I thought his demonstration of power was awesome. I thought it was like, oh, that's cool. Like they show that he's not just a fighter; he can use the 10 rings if he wanted to.
Exactly, and more than I expected. I love the design of the 10 rings. I think it's such a cool power set to give a character.
The Chinese power rings.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's way cooler than just the rings that you would wear.
Yeah, for like the original comics,
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure they could have thought of something cool to do with them too, but why do that when you had a similar storyline with Thanos collecting all the stones? You know what I'm saying? Like
exactly.
Like
and not only that, like in Kung Fu, you have the power rings. Yeah. That's a weapon in Kung Fu that adds weight to your hands, and it's a cool way of keeping the motif going. You know what I mean? Where it's still the 10 rings, but they're different than what you would expect. Exactly. And they're not worn the way the Infinity Gauntlets were.
So then we end the movie. We have our Blake, our big climactic battle.
Yeah.
Between not only Shang-Chi and his father, but also Shang-Chi versus what's it called?
The Dweller in Darkness.
The Dweller in Darkness, right?
Yeah.
And we end up with Shang-Chi having to like explain the whole situation to those two friends in that restaurant in the beginning. And then from there we're led into Wong visiting them, being like, hey, you know, Shang-Chi, like, who's here? Like, he's like, present. And then now we're introducing this character to like the bigger Marvel universe, right? He's being introduced to freaking Bruce Banner and and Captain Marvel, right? Like right away, and Wong as well. Mm-hmm. How did you feel of that scene of him being okay? So we have our origin story. He's being introduced, which I don't think we've seen this happen before. Mm-hmm. If I may be totally wrong with that. Where like we're given an introduction to a character who then gets almost knighted into the fold, right? Or like, welcome to the circus, kid, right?
Well, Ant-Man had that scene, remember, where he fights Falcon.
You're right.
Yeah, where he goes to and
then the end game scene. Yeah. I was sorry, the last scene at the end of the movie.
Yeah, the last scene was where they had the Winter Soldier in right? Was that it?
No, I meant where Falcon was asking for Ant-Man, and then they were having the whole comedic beat with Lewis describing the situation.
Yeah, I remember that now. But yeah, so I mean, but I do remember feeling like, oh, okay, like, oh yeah, this is a Marvel movie. You know what I mean? Where I was so bought in, and they mentioned Iron Man with Trevor Slattery and all that, and they mentioned stuff, you know, but and even when they say we live in a world where half the population can vanish in a second, like they make
cool little moments like that that really build up that world, but also like this movie just like you said anchored the movie to what the universe is, but also so different at the same time of what they're doing. The imagery that they displayed was so different from anything we've seen before. Yeah, which again I kind of feel like Black Panther does in its own way, where you get this imagery is like, oh, this is fucking Wakanda. This is the Wakanda of this universe. You're getting Tao Lo of the Marvel universe. You're getting these things that are unique to them, but are part of a whole.
Yeah. No, absolutely. But I love the fact that Wong is getting screen time, and
he's getting a lot of screen time lately. That's just great. Yeah. He's like is he the Agent Coulson for this next phase?
Could be.
You know what I'm saying? Like, because we haven't had a character like that for a while now.
He's in Shang-Chi.
He's gonna be in Spider-Man.
A bunch of episodes of What If. Yeah. Like 2. I think 2 episodes, right? Yeah. And then he's going to be in He was in the Spider-Man trailer.
He got big roles in Infinity War. He was a big part of that.
Yeah, he was. He was in that in the beginning.
More so than Rhodey. You know, again, like more so than some of those secondary characters.
That's true. He shows up more than he got more screen time than Hawkeye. No, but he I like that. Did you notice that Bruce Banner had a gauntlet on his left arm?
Oh yeah, I was going to mention that to you. So, do you think that's something that's going to be explained in the She-Hulk series?
I think so. I think that might be a way of him turning the Hulk off and on, because he had his arm in a sling, but you could see that his skin wasn't burnt. Mm-hmm. That his arm was still in a sling.
You know, he's still recovering.
He's still recovering, but there was no scarring that I could see because I looked. And then on the other hand, he had like on the other arm, he had like this bracer with a green glowing light in the middle of it that looked like some kind of technology that he may have come up with. So I'm curious to see how that's going to work out.
I don't know if this theory is already out there, but I had a theory. I haven't looked at anything online, but I had a theory that. Remember when at the end of Endgame he said that the gauntlet was mostly gamma radiation, right? What if something happened from not just from the snap of the injury he received from the snap, but also the radiation of that, the gamma radiation? Right. What if he can't control it anymore, or whatever, right? Or maybe he used up so much that maybe he's down to low levels, he can't.
Right. Or what if just being in close proximity to 3 snaps? You know what I mean? Right. Like he was in Thanos' snap, he snapped himself, and he was really close to Tony when he was in proximity of it. Like, what if that transforms his power in some kind of way? Right. You know? But no, that was interesting. I'm curious to see what made Captain Marvel leave in a hurry too at the end.
You know, it's something that we're gonna obviously reference to. Yeah. I don't think anything from the TV shows, but I think it's going to be something that leads up to maybe even Guardians.
Well, I mean, Miss Marvel is coming next, and she's rumored to show up in Miss Marvel. Yeah, like supposedly, if I read it correctly, I think they're expecting her in 2 episodes. of Miss Marvel.
Not to derail Shang-Chi too much, but let's go back to it. But let's talk about that.
Yeah.
Miss Marvel is an Inhuman.
Right.
Are they going to rewrite that?
I don't know. I mean, they had that show on ABC that sucked balls.
And they're straight up just ignoring it too. Yeah. Like it's not like, we don't know about that show.
They really, really shit the bed on that.
They're really, giving the Dragon Ball GT moment to it. You're like, okay, we don't know anything about that. We're just gonna keep on trucking.
We didn't do that. Well, they should. I mean, with Iron Fist too, they should fucking flush Iron Fist down the toilet.
Yeah.
And the second half of
just keep Daredevil, keep Luke Cage and Jessica. To be honest with you, like I love Jessica, love Daredevil, love Luke Cage. And keep Foggy.
I would be cool if they kept. Iron Fist.
Yeah.
But he would have to go to Shang-Chi and
train under him
and train under Shang-Chi.
Yeah.
And if they do that, I'd be like, okay. Like, he's the sidekick, you know what I mean, to Shang-Chi. And I'd be okay with that.
Or even just a mercenary. Like, he doesn't have to be at that level of fighting, but, like, if him and Luke Cage powered up for the heroes for hire, where they're, again, like you said, street-level street-level heroes, right?
Yeah.
That could be a believable story and a better story for the TV show.
Could be. Okay,
so we got Shang-Chi. We're getting to the Eternals. We're going to get to Spider-Man No Way Home.
Stoked.
We're in the start of Phase 4. What are your expectations of where we go from here? The Eternals are coming out. That Spider-Man's coming out. Where do you want this first 2 years of Marvel to lead you to?
Again, I don't have expectations aside from what I've heard, or what I've read online or whatever. But I want to see how. For me, I want to see where they're going with it.
Yeah.
I just want to see where they're going with it. We know that Fantastic Four is coming out. And Fantastic Four was the first Marvel team up book. You know, it was one of the original Marvel comics,
original families.
Yeah, and not the original Marvel comics, but it was like the original. Fantastic Four was like the first real superhero comic book that Stan Lee did. You know, that became ongoing. So I want to see how the universe develops. Are we going to get an Avengers movie where it's the Fantastic Four, Doctor Strange and Wong, Shang-Chi, She-Hulk, Miss Marvel, Spider-Man? Like, what are the Avengers going to look like in Avengers 5?
Yeah, because a lot of people are saying, like, hey, what if they make, like, a new Avengers movie where it's not the same lineup, you have a totally different lineup, and then lead up to the eventual... whatever you want to call it in the end, right? Where it's going to be a huge lineup of all these people that we've known.
And old characters coming back.
And with the whole... I feel like right now, my expectation, at least for Phase 4 right now, is that they're sprinkling the narrative of the multiverse, right? You're getting crumbles and sprinkles of these situations. Like, them mentioning that Tao Lo is a different dimension or a different world, right?
Yeah.
It is, again, it's some of that sprinkling of what they're trying to lead up to from where we left off with Loki, right? And I feel like this Phase 4 is going to be about introducing that to the concept, to the audience, to the Marvel Universe, and then eventually we're going to lead up to something where, like, you know what, we don't know if he's the end game boss, we don't know if he's the mid-level boss, whatever, right?
Right.
But we are getting introduced, like, hey, there's multiple versions, there's multiple things happening now, right?
Right.
And even with the trailer that we saw for Spider-Man, we could have another Tony Stark. We could have another Chris Evans from different universes, different people who had different experiences, and it all come together. And I think for Phase 4, I just want them to keep building on that and give me that, not that slow burn, but give me that that building that we enjoyed when Marvel was first being introduced to us.
Yeah, Shang-Chi was a lot of that, where especially in the stinger post-credit stingers or whatever. But it did get me excited for like the slate of movies that's coming out, where it's like, okay, we got Eternals and Spider-Man.
Yeah.
We still have Hawkeye coming out this year, and I think Miss Marvel is next year, I think.
Yeah.
But we still have Hawkeye, we still have Spider-Man, we still have Eternals. Like, there's still a good chunk of content.
And we still have. They already announced their whole slate. We got Blade coming up, Thor: Love and Thunder. We have Black Panther: Wakanda Forever.
Yeah.
I would want to see a Shang-Chi 2.
Yeah.
Or maybe if they can like slip it in there now that they know that this did really well, or even just have him show up in other movies too. Because I mean, we're no strangers to that anymore. We're seeing Doctor Strange straight up show up in a Spider-Man film.
I mean, that's been happening since I think Ragnarok was the first movie that really had a supporting character from another.
Yeah, Thor and Hulk.
And then Spider-Man Homecoming, where too. Iron Man was in it.
You're right. Yeah.
That was the first. I think that was like the first major one. No, Civil War too. Civil War was Iron Man was in. Everybody was in Captain America's movie, but Black Widow and Iron Man 2. That was the first one. Mm-hmm. Either way, I can go on, but yeah, it did get me excited for where they're going. I don't know where they're going, but I do want to see, a new Avengers roster. White Vision, Scarlet Witch.
Oh my god, I forgot about them. That's gonna be interesting.
Sam is Cap, because we know Cap 4 is coming out.
Yeah.
So like, there's a lot that they can do with it, and there's even a thing where they might be able to make multiple Avengers movies with multiple casts, and where the teams look, Avengers 5 and Avengers 6 can come out at the same time, and there's enough characters now where you can fill up 2 rosters and have one team of Avengers doing one thing and one team of Avengers doing something else, and they're 2 completely different movies.
One thing that I love about living in the present with the level of technology and everything we have now is that you can watch all these movies on the same service on Disney Plus, right? Yeah. And like it's not like before we had to like find the DVD Blu-ray sets and this and that to get all this collected, right? Yeah. It's all in one place, and anyone can, even if for whatever reason Marvel wasn't your thing, right, and you didn't catch it, now you want to catch up. Because I guarantee you that there'll be people who watch this movie because of the premise of Shang-Chi, right? Yeah. And they're like, you know what? I love this character. What is this universe about? And then they're gonna go freaking go back and watch everything. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that's happened already. Most
with
people
multiple characters,
throughout. Someone sees one movie and then they want to get into everything else and they go back.
Yeah, exactly.
But
it makes for great rewatches too, especially when you like rewatch the movies and see all the breadcrumbs of things that they had set up before that pays off later.
Things that they flesh out later on down the line. Like I rewatched Avengers 1 a couple of weeks ago, and it's like you see them and it's like, wow, this is these characters practically in their infancy.
Right.
Like you see them really develop over the course of the next 2 or 3 movies between Avengers 1 and Endgame.
Yeah.
So much happens in between. So much shit happens in between those 2 movies. Or those, well, I mean, there's not 2 movies. There's like fucking 10 movies in between. But still, between Avengers 1 and Endgame, so much crap happens.
So much happens.
And the characters are almost, not, I don't want to say unrecognizable, but they're so evolved from where they initially came.
Yeah, they had so much character growth from then to now.
Like Avengers 1 was the status quo.
Yeah.
Avengers 2 also. Avengers 2 though was the beginning of the team unraveling.
Yeah.
I think, But so whatever happened between 1 and 2 was like that was the status quo. That was like the golden age of the MCU's Avengers, But I definitely want to see what they do with Shang-Chi in that greater world.
Exactly. I'm excited to see him.
And why are the 10 rings so important? And why, what beacon are they sending out? Who are they communicating to? It's just so much, there's a lot of questions. So, I'm excited for that, to see where they go.
At the recording of this episode, we just found out that there's Wolverine game, Spider-Man 2 coming out.
Right.
The Guardians game's going to come out soon, and then we have Midnight Suns. Like, I'm so excited if they had, like, something for Shang-Chi to come out. Because even if he was just in the Avengers, like, I know we're not timing it, we're not going to talk about that, I want to get into it. But, like, after watching that movie, it's like, hey, can we get something Shang-Chi? Because I want to play that. Yeah. Or do something in that world,
Yeah, I play that game, that Strikeforce game on iPhone. Mm-hmm. It's just, you run your dailies, and I just play it. I'm addicted to it. But I unlocked Shang-Chi.
Yeah,
and I'm like, yeah. He just made it up to like Shang-Chi, Doctor Strange, like
make a Mystic Knights type of team up.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah. No, but the stuff that's happening, like definitely the MCU stuff that's coming out affects my roster in the game.
Right.
So like if I'm like,
but that's great. That's the fun of it.
I unlocked them like months ago,
right.
But I've never, I didn't upgrade them, right? I didn't level them up or whatever. So it is kind of fun. It's like my roster's reactive to what's coming out.
Right. speaking on what came out and talking about video games, let's talk about Psychonauts 2.
Psychonauts 2.
Psychonauts 2.
Yes, we beat it.
It took us about a week to beat it.
I want to say about 2 weeks total.
2 weeks total. Okay.
Yeah, like a week and a half.
Let me go first. Yeah. So, for Psychonauts 2, it, like we mentioned in the the previous podcast, that it was our first time playing the game, right?
Right.
We've played other Tim Schafer games and Double Fine games, but honestly, Psychonauts 2, I think it's my game of the year so far.
Yeah. Because
I haven't played anything like this that has like brought me this much joy.
Yeah.
Introspective look at myself and also the people's like tics and everything we had mentioned before.
Yeah.
And just how fun it was to go through Casey's mind, go through Colton's mind, Ford's mind, every helmet bear.
Yeah, full bear.
Full bear, right?
Yeah.
Or even Caligula. Maligula, right?
Yeah, and then Bob.
And Bob's mind.
The gardener.
And I thought it was just such a great game. I hadn't experienced, not that I haven't experienced something like that, but I just thought the creativity of the levels and everything that was leading to in the story and the beats and the twists were so good and weren't telegraphed.
Right,
and really brought that sense of awe and wonder and surprise when you finally, let up. We're gonna spoil the game of the story of the game, right? But the surprise that, hey, this had been building up since Psychonauts 1.
Yeah.
We had the threads there that paid off now, and I'm pretty sure that if we had played the first one, it would have been even a bigger payoff for us.
Right.
But even then, I felt like there was again, like, I felt that payoff. Like, hey, they've been leading up to this. Yeah. I can tell that there's been, like you mentioned in episode 12, that they put a lot of care into the storytelling to these characters.
Yeah, there's no way a game like this gets done without people who love what they do.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, you could tell that there was craft and care, and everything was meticulous. Like, those twists were so cool. I noticed, like, the way the characters were fleshed out also. No one was fully bad and nobody was fully good.
Yeah, they're just people.
Yeah.
They're just people. People have their bads, they have their goods. The kid Griscoll, right?
Yeah.
You could Elijah Wood, from his point of view of what he believed in, you could see how his the events in his head make up for, what I'm saying? Like, you could see his progression as a character, why he did the things he did.
His motivations.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's I definitely noticed that, like, couple, like, it pretty much shows that the people who do bad things are typically people that are hurt.
Yeah.
People that are hurt, people that are, there's a reason that, it's that people do bad things, that no one's ever just truly bad. Maybe that's not true in real life, but like in the game, no one's ever fully one way.
Yeah.
There's always a silver lining,
or even the heroes themselves, or the people who are supposed to be helping.
Things.
They do questionable things where they had to learn the hard way, or about what they had done and what brought their character. Like when not Bob, right? When Bob lost Full Bear, right?
Yeah.
And the depression that he went.
He became an alcoholic.
Like, all these things.
His levels are a bunch of bottles.
Yeah, but it also like a paradise at the same time, because he's trying to ignore all that, right? Yeah. He's trying to drink himself to forgetting, and put up barriers for himself to not remember the pain, but at the same time, by not remembering the pain, you're also not remembering the good times and the things like that, right? Yeah. And I think, again, that it was so beautiful to play those type of levels with Casey's mind, how she had
Casey?
Casey was the taller girl, the beehive lady.
Cassie.
Sorry, Cassie.
Yeah. The what was her name? The Green Needle Witch.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And what she had to do to survive.
Right.
A person who had to not develop multiple personalities, but had to develop different persons of herself.
She had to compartmentalize her personality.
Exactly.
And put everything in neat little boxes
to get away from the fraudulent things that she had been suckered into, or whatever,
Or even Compton Bull, who had to, the kind of Albert Einstein looking guy, who had to, like, essentially get Maligula and convince her that she was her sister.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Which was which was pretty fucked up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And the way they cope with that, the way the family coped with that.
Yeah.
The dad, Raz's dad, and stuff like that. It's pretty heavy shit.
It's heavy stuff.
Yeah,
it's like, and again, like when the beginning of the game, I didn't expect it to. Again, almost like Shang-Chi, like I didn't expect this level of creativity or this level of storytelling.
Yeah.
From this game, and after playing it, I had that moment that I also had from Zelda Breath of the Wild, where like. Right. This is a moment in my gaming life of playing so many games in my life where like this will stand out to me.
Yeah, this is, like you understand that this was a great game. Yeah. As you're playing it, you're like, this was well done. This is one for the books. Mm-hmm. I definitely had that moment where I was like, okay, this is something amazing. Like right. This is something someone really poured over. And
it's fun.
Took their time with it.
Great storytelling. The graphics look. The well acted, the creativity of and the colors and the palettes that they used for different levels and the motifs that they had.
Yeah, like the diversity in the.
I feel like almost nothing was left for no reason. Everything had a purpose.
Yeah.
You know, and even if we're giving this so much praise, but I do have to mention that I just think the platforming at times didn't feel really like solid. There was plenty of times where I was frustrated with the controls.
Sure.
Or like some of the platforming sections, or even some of the fighting. I think it's a little janky, but it never detracted. Like I always feel like it was still fun to do it, especially when you had to fight multiple different enemies. Like, oh, I had to fight Fear, right? And like, okay, that was, I thought that was like a little mini boss fight. Okay, we're gonna fight Fear, and then they throw 3 of them with you, with 3 sensors, and then the cheerleader guys, the enablers and stuff.
They keep getting more and more difficult.
Yeah, and I thought that was really cool.
The bad moods were really fun.
Yeah,
because they were very
judgment.
Yeah, the judge, you had to like take his gavel.
Take this, you gaveling motherfucker.
No, but and then he throws the book at you. He throws the book, and his aim is fucking amazing. I think I got hit with just about every single one. I did like the archetype too. The archetype, fun fact, the guy who did Invader Zim is Raz. Yeah. And then the archetype was played by the guy who played Gur.
Yeah, Simon something.
Ricky Simons.
Ricky Simons, yeah.
And I think Richard Horowitz or something like that. I can't pronounce it.
I didn't meet Ricky Simons, but I did see him at one of those Comic-Con conventions.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like he was at a booth. I didn't know who he was.
Yeah.
But when I find out that I saw that guy, I should have said something. But whatever.
Oh no, it's fine, man.
But so going back to Psychonauts 2, which world did you like the best? Because I definitely have my favorite.
I liked Full Barrel's world.
Right.
The psychedelic.
How can you not?
Woodstock world. I was like, okay. Like they did their research for that one. You could tell they did a lot of research for that level. The teeth level was fun, but I hated the way it looked. That's like nightmare fuel.
It's well done though.
It's very well done. The book level was it was fun. The platforming was fun, but that's where I got most frustrated with the platforming. For
me, my favorite level was the mailroom. Just because of how many moving parts,
right?
During when you're in that main room, how many moving parts there is to that area. I thought it was just so creative of having this robot doing all these parts and you're platforming around the area.
Yeah.
Again, like it's not that I've never seen something like that before. Yeah. I just like the creativity and how the level progresses as you're going throughout the mailroom.
Yeah, it almost like you've seen it before, but it doesn't matter because it's so well done.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like even if it is something that you've played a million times, like how many times have you been a miniature something in a game and you have to platform through giant, whatevers, but that's it's like, yeah, it's been done before a million times, but it still felt fresh. It still felt new.
Yeah, like they added such a cool twist to it. And my other favorite one was Bob's, the whole island motif.
Oh yeah, that one was fun.
It just felt like I was like, man, I'm in Bikini Bottom right now, a very depressed version of it.
Yeah. No, I liked Bob's and Helmets. Those were my favorite ones. I
didn't like the barbershop one, where it was one of Ford's other levels.
Yeah.
Where it was like him being when he was being the barber in the.
Oh, I thought that was Compton Bull. Compton Bull was the little blue guy with the beard. Ford. What was his last name?
Ford Crowler.
Ford Crowler. Okay. I got the names mixed up. But yeah, Ford was a nutcase.
And then his barbershop. I thought that barbershop level was like the weakest out of all the levels. I thought.
I don't remember.
Exactly, my point. And there's, I loved Colton, which is the one, the guy who can talk to animals.
Right.
And in his whole
Was it
level,
Compton Bull.
Compton Bull.
Yeah.
In his level where it's a what's it called, a cooking game show.
Oh yeah,
I thought that was so funny.
With the that was an interesting boss level too. That was, the bosses were fun. I thought Maligula was a little underwhelming as a boss.
Yeah.
Just a tornado and a lady coming at you. Compared to what we had before.
Exactly.
Yeah, what we had before. I don't have complaints about it, but it was wasn't as, it was a little straightforward compared to everything that that came before. You know what I mean? But it was such a fun game. It reminded me of like just playing like old N64 games or old PlayStation 1 games, and then it was so tight and it was so just everything. All the characters were fleshed out. The gameplay, I see what you're saying about it getting frustrating at times.
Again, it doesn't take away from it. I just noticed like, oh, like this could have been better a little bit, but it doesn't detract from it.
It works more often than it does.
Exactly. Yeah, that's why it didn't bother me as much. But I can tell, like, you know, like there are moments where like this could have been done a little bit better.
Yeah. There are. It's not critique proof, but it is a. Yeah, it's. What other game did I just sit through? I mean, we played Outriders pretty religiously, but as soon as it was done, it was done.
Yeah.
I haven't really gone back to Psychonauts. After I beat it, I beat it and I left it.
I started playing the first one.
Oh, you started playing the first one? Yeah,
it's a little rough, but I do like that it's the same voice cast, so it makes at least the story really interesting.
Okay.
Because I want to see like what were some of the things that they had built up from before, because you could tell that there's not crumbs, but there's ties there.
Yeah.
That's why I wanted to start playing it. I didn't get too far into it. I've done like maybe the first level or so.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm definitely playing through the first Psychonauts.
Yeah. I'm gonna do the same thing. I've been playing Brutal Legend though. That's the Tim Schafer game that I've been chipping away at little by little. I just haven't like sat through it, you know.
I love that they got Jack Black back to be the Psy King, or to be Full Bear.
Yeah,
I thought that was amazing, and like, and then when you mentioned, I was like, oh, that's right.
And
he was the voice. He was the voice for the guy in Brutal Legend, right?
Eddie Riggs, yeah.
And then, like you mentioned, like Elijah Wood came back as Gristle, right?
Yeah.
And he's from Broken Age. Like, I just love that they have these relationships with these people, and then they come back to do more, because I wouldn't doubt they just love working on the games that they make. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. It must be like, you know, if for a game to come out like that, they must like what they're doing.
Exactly.
Like so it must be an incredible work environment. I hope, at least. I'd like to think. Imagine it's terrible. It's just like some tyrant cracking a whip.
Just another quick aside for the level design. I love the this is a small world, like interpretation of what
propaganda.
The propaganda. I thought that was really fun, especially when you've been to Disneyland. You know that, right? Yeah. And how well they represented that feeling of like, this is fun. There's madness here.
Did you get the achievement for destroying the phonographs?
No, I didn't. No? I only got 2 of them.
Okay, I got the third one.
Okay,
but
I couldn't find.
Yeah, it was in the game. The music itself drives Raz crazy. He hates it. It's great.
I know. That's to say, like, I love that like a reference, because if you've been to that ride, you know what they're talking about.
Yeah. No, I like the twist at the end. I mean, it was super heavy, like the whole grandmother thing, and she killed her own sister, and then she realizes what she
really heavy subjects.
Yeah, real fucked up.
I love that she was also like his, not motivation, but she pushed him to be a psychic in the first game. Like, she was the one. I'm pretty sure they just wrote that in, like, to give him more connective tissue to the first game. Yeah. But I still think it's great, because what story have you never heard where someone became something because someone pushed them, because even when no one else did? Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like, you've always heard that story, or even people in their own personal lives, someone helped you, you know, go down the path that you're going on now, because they realize, hey, you know what, you like this, let me help you. You know? Yeah. And we've all been there, especially like considering how like anti-psychic his family was.
Right.
And Nona, which is the one that spread that anti-psychic message to them, was still the one who helped Raz reach that potential. That's some
Star Wars shit right there. But no, it was a fun game, man. It was what was your least favorite part?
My least favorite part was some of the level designs, like I mentioned. I felt like the supporting cast didn't play as a big of a role that I thought would. Mm-hmm. And what I mean by that is the other interns, Agent 9, Maya. Like, I felt like they had didn't have much input. Like, this really was Raz's story, interacting with the 6 or with the 7, right?
Yeah, you're right, but I feel like okay, there's the original 6, right? Like the old people.
Yeah.
And then there was the younger sidekicks that
Yeah.
were like like his mentors in the first one,
Yeah.
right? And then you have all the interns, and it's like, what if there's 5 years from now, 10 years from now, we get another one, and
we might get DLCs. What if this is not the order? What if they just make new chapters? Because to be honest with you, this is on Game Pass. This is something that if there's enough support, we can definitely get more. Especially the way that Borderlands gets so many. Even Borderlands 2 got so many DLC. Borderlands 3 has so many DLC as well.
And they were Double Fine was really they were really open about how Microsoft didn't even interfere with them at all. They just let them do whatever they wanted to do. That they didn't really have much of a different experience between the first one and the second one.
Yeah.
When it came to like studio meddling or anything like that. So, hats off to Microsoft for staying the fuck out of the way,
Definitely. And if that's level a level of quality and hands-offness that if
creative freedom.
That's creative freedom that Microsoft is going to allow a lot of the developers to make, I'm all for it. Because if we're getting experiences like this on Game Pass, like, sure, it's not Spider-Man 2, but I'm like, I wouldn't trade that experience of playing that game for anything else.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that I was able to experience it. And if it was a game I had to buy, right? That again, I never played the first one. Why am I going to buy the game for a second one? That was a series I never got into.
Yeah,
like it's difficult to make that choice to put $60-$70 down.
It would have slipped through your
It would have slipped. It wouldn't ignore it. And I've already told you many times where I played other games where like I eventually came back to it and like, why didn't I play this when it came out? Why didn't you give it the chance the first time? And that's the beauty of Game Pass, where even if it's not your thing, you can try it out, and if it grabs you, it grabs you, and you're in it for the fucking ride.
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, I wanted to play Psychonauts 1 since I saw it at the video store when I was a kid, or like all those years ago, but I just never got around to it. And then by the time, I was gonna get around to it. Brutal Legend was out, and it was, what I mean? Like, just the years passed, and okay, that's one of those that just, I know it's great, but I'll get to it sometime,
Especially because during that era or during that time, video games were popping, but it wasn't to this level where like almost every week there's something to play that may take you 80 to 60 hours to beat, and then there's like 5 other releases coming out that month.
Yeah.
Of great games, right?
Yeah. Like right now there's definitely a saturation.
It's a good problem to have though. That means there's just so much variety. Because I remember like I mentioned before that I bought Devil May Cry 1 back for the PS2. That was my only game for the summer, and I beat it that day.
Really?
That day or like day or two. So then I had to keep replaying this game because guess what? I spent all my money. Like that was all I had for that summer.
So you just kept going on that game.
Harder difficulties, just creating my own like system of just try to beat it or times whatever, right? Like just had to. Back then you didn't have as many game modes either.
Yeah.
So then you just had to make up shit for yourself, or give it some. I think eventually I did let someone borrow it, and I borrowed a game. Yeah. In the meantime, things like that.
Wow.
But that's what I like about now is like. There's just so much variety. There's something for everyone.
Yeah.
Like, you got farming. You got freaking Stardew Valley. You got all these games that...
Goat Simulator.
You got Goat Simulator. You got plenty of fucking shooters out there. Plenty of multiplayer games. Plenty of story-based games. Yeah. Plenty of role-playing games, and fucking Avengers.
Oh, man, Avengers.
But I highly recommend, if you haven't played Psychonauts, get into 2. It's after playing the whole thing, I don't think it detracts from not playing from the... previous ones. I'm definitely going back to play them.
Same here.
And just to see like where it came from, where they had built from, because it's always fun.
There's some different powers too, and things like that. There's some different abilities that you have in 1 that you don't have in 2, and vice versa.
Would you play now that you play Psychonauts, so you finished it? What did you think of the game length? Do you think it was too short?
No,
would you want it to be longer, or do you thought it was fine?
It was good. I thought it was. I mean, it was a little bit long, but I want games to be long. Mm-hmm. I didn't think it was short. I
didn't think it was short either.
I want games to be long because it feels like you get your money's worth. I don't want to play a game where you beat it in 2 or 3 days and you're just like, okay. Mm-hmm. But we didn't pay for it. We got it on Game Pass. Yeah. But still, it's like, okay, this is a type of game where it's rich in content, where you're not. It's not a sparse game. No. It's pretty rich and so I was fine with the game. It wasn't too long and it wasn't too short. It was good.
I'll be honest with you, I felt like I could have had a little bit more just because I just enjoyed the ride so much of what we're playing with.
Yeah.
But it made sense for the story of everything you did. It's like, okay, we knew when you were leading up to the finale. And even the game kind of foreshadows moments where like, hey, you're about to like do some stuff and leading up to big moments.
When it tells you like you're about to get into a big moment, you should stock up on your shit or whatever. I think the end game content, like just finishing up all the stuff, getting all the figments, that's enough for me to go back and replay it. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Replay it with my powers and just revisit every world. You know, mm-hmm. Like I'm probably gonna give it another pass. You know. From the beginning, you know, just go through the worlds, just go from one point to the next, try to get everything. Yeah. You know, but I'm just gonna do it I'm just gonna take my sweet time with it.
Yeah, of course.
Like, I'm not gonna rush that either.
I love how in the last episode we said we were gonna take our time with it, and we ended up not rushing through it, but we just kept playing because it was that good.
We didn't put it down.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we kept. Yeah, I would start watching TV like, you know. Winding down at night, and I'm like, what am I doing watching TV? I gotta beat Psychonauts. It was great. It's one of my favorite experiences playing in recent memory. Yeah.
I can't wait to see what they make up next. Yeah. Hopefully, because we don't know, they might be making more episodes. What if they're making like in between, like it's Game Pass. Anything is up for, you know,
new brains to fucking
traverse. New experiences, new story. We don't know. We don't know if they're gonna move on to another game. I just want to see what Double Fine's making up next, and then they're going to start looking more into their other games as well. Yeah. See if they're on Game Pass, and then start seeing some of the creativity.
I think Brutal Legend's the only one on Game Pass right now.
Right.
Yeah. But that's one I want to get through as well. I just haven't.
I just love that in a way Double Fine has still, you know, stayed true to themselves, because you see so many companies where like you will follow even your favorite studio, right, that makes certain type of games. They may not be the same studio that you remember 10 years ago, like BioWare, right?
That's true.
BioWare is not the same people of the BioWare who made KOTOR, Jade Empire, Mass Effect. Those people had left. Yeah. And the BioWare that's now, even though great developers and great artists in their own right, but they don't, like, kind of like with the whole Anthem situation, oh, we have the BioWare magic, it's gonna work out. Yeah. And it didn't. Because they overestimated themselves, right?
What about Rockstar? Rockstar is completely new people too.
Completely new people as well, but you could tell that they still have the same creative leads though. The people who write GTA, the people who write Red Dead Redemption, they're still the helms of that studio. Yeah. I know one of them left, but I don't think. But there's still another writer or another person who keeps that magic alive again. Yeah. These are huge companies that they're all made up by thousands of employees who contribute to making great games, but you always need that leadership. You always need that vision
of the
direction, because then they're the ones that can tell you, we need to cut this because it's all hurting the overall product. Even though if you want this to be in the game, or maybe they might say, you know what, we're missing something. What do we need to add? Yeah, you know. But again, like I mentioned, like the best example that comes to mind is BioWare. The BioWare that we have now isn't the BioWare that we had before. But Double Fine seems to be still on the, you know, on the truck, still rolling around and keep going with the type of games that they're making that they want to make.
Yeah, no, it's interesting to see where they're gonna go next. I'd like to see what if there's another game that they have in the chamber. Mm-hmm. I want to see that. If it's DLC, I want to see that too. But I would like to see a new original IP from them, right? Or a sequel to, like, you know, something that we haven't seen. But a new IP would be awesome.
Would you want them to make a new platform, or do you want, like, just something else completely different from their wheelhouse?
Whatever they do. They do. If they make good platformers, if they make good, you know, whatever they do, just do that. That's cool, you know, because there's not really a studio out there that's making this kind of retro style platform.
No, not many. The only one that comes to mind is exactly the only one that comes to mind is Ratchet and Clank. Right now with the PS5, but I haven't played that yet either.
Yeah, I haven't played those either.
But even just the like kind of like the online discourse, like Ratchet and Clank is good, but it's a good platformer, but it's not at the level that Psychonauts 2 is when it with like the creativity and
how to use your powers,
and also just the story. Like, you know what I'm saying, there's just so much more creativity with Psychonauts 2, but from what I hear from people who have played these two platformers, they prefer Psychonauts 2 because it's just a more not polished product, but more of a like wholesome product, or something that just has so much like weight to it. When Ratchet and Clank it's a good platformer for what it is. It's just another Ratchet and Clank. It's another one in the bucket.
Yeah, it's pretty mindless. Mm-hmm. Like Ratchet and Clank, like you just go in and do it. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Which and again, there's nothing wrong with that.
No, absolutely not.
Looking at Tina's Wonderland, right? It's just another Borderlands game, right? Yeah. You're gonna shoot shit. You're gonna fight bosses. You're gonna get guns, right?
That looks great though.
But I've done that like 3-4 times now. With you know what I'm saying? With buying each sequel in each in between series and DLC.
Yeah.
Like it's nothing I haven't seen before, but I just love that. So you know that's why I'm gonna buy it.
Yeah. No, Tina's Wonderland looks great. Mm-hmm. That one looks a lot of fun. Looks like a lot of fun. And we need I've been looking for a fantasy game that fits my sensibilities. So I'm like, okay, I think that's it right there.
Well, what do you think of Psychonauts 2? Did you enjoy Shang-Chi? Let us know in the comments below. You guys have a great rest of your day, and thank you for listening to Shoot and Loot.
So long, everybody.